Imagine being on the front lines of a 16th century battlefield. The air is thick with dust, the thunder of hooves is growing louder, and all that stands between you and a charging enemy is a wooden spear and a curved shield strapped to your arm. There's no Kevlar, no carbon fiber, no bulletproof vests, just wood, leather, and iron. And yet somehow, these simple tools not only protected lives, they shaped the course of empires. In today's video, we're exploring how Ottoman spears and shields were made without modern tools, machines, or electricity, and how these forgotten techniques might still have value today. And hey, before we dive into Ottoman craftsmanship and survival genius, don't forget to subscribe if you're into forgotten skills and ancient DIY knowledge. Every click helps us revive what history tried to bury. Let's talk about the spear, one of the oldest weapons in human history. For the Ottomans, it wasn't just a stick with a sharp end, it was a battlefield essential. Ottoman spears, known as mizrak, were designed for cavalry and infantry alike. They had to be long enough to strike before your enemy could reach you, but not so heavy that you couldn't maneuver with it. The standard mizrak was usually between 2.5 to 3.5 meters long and consisted of a wooden shaft, typically made of ash or oak, and a forged iron or steel spearhead. But how did they make these weapons without lathes, drills, or power hammers? That's where the genius comes in. First, the wood. Craftsmen would select straight, knot-free trees, often from mountainous regions where the wood grew slow and dense. This created stronger, more flexible shafts. The wood was then seasoned, meaning dried slowly, usually for months in shaded, ventilated areas, to prevent warping or cracking later. They didn't have moisture meters. They judged readiness by weight, sound, and even the scent of the wood. Next came shaping the shaft. Without lathes, they relied on hand tools, draw knives, spoke shaves, and sometimes even shards of broken steel. It was slow, precise work. The shaft had to be perfectly balanced. A poorly balanced spear was dangerous not just to the enemy, but to the wielder. And now, the spearhead. Forged by blacksmiths using charcoal forges and manual bellows, spearheads were made from iron or steel, often recycled from broken tools or weapons. The metal was heated, hammered into a leaf or diamond shape, then quenched in water or oil. The smiths didn't have thermometers, but they knew steel by its color. Bright orange was forging temperature, dull red was time to stop. That level of sensory skill takes years to develop. The spearhead was attached using a metal socket, hammered onto the shaft and secured with glue made from natural resins or even boiled animal hide. Primitive, yes, but surprisingly strong. Now let's talk about shields, or as the Ottomans called them, kalkan. These were not giant tower shields like in medieval Europe. Ottoman shields were typically round, between 40 to 60 centimeters in diameter, designed for mobility and agility. Their purpose wasn't just to block blows, but to deflect them. Think of them as early shock absorbers. The most common materials? Wicker, wood, leather, and metal, sometimes all in one shield. The core might be woven from cane or willow branches, forming a springy, flexible base. On top of that, layers of hide, usually cow or buffalo, were glued and stitched in concentric circles. Why circles? Because that pattern naturally deflects force outward. Genius, right? To finish it off, the front might be decorated with bronze bosses or iron studs, not just for aesthetics, but to deflect sword strikes and arrows. The back would be padded with cloth or wool, and leather straps would be sewn in for grip. One technique that really stands out is their use of rawhide. Rawhide, when dried and stretched, becomes incredibly tough, almost like plastic, and unlike wood or metal, it won't shatter or splinter under pressure. Some shields were made almost entirely of rawhide, boiled and molded over wooden frames. Once dried, they were light, durable, and shock-resistant. Now here's the modern question. Could we make one of these today without power tools? The answer is yes. You can start with willow branches for the frame, soak and weave them into a circle. Use thick leather or even layered canvas with glue for the outer surface. Some survivalists have even made shields using car tires, canvas, and epoxy. It's not historically perfect, but the principles are the same. Absorb impact, deflect blows, protect the body. And let's be honest, there's something deeply satisfying about making your own shield, hanging it on the wall, or even testing it safely in the backyard. If you ever try it, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about your build. Now here's the part that might surprise you. Modern ballistic tests have shown that layered hide and wicker shields, like the Ottomans used, can actually stop arrows and even low-velocity bullets. That's right, a carefully crafted 15th century shield can outperform cheap aluminum riot gear in some conditions. That's what happens when technology is rooted in real battlefield experience. Another often overlooked detail is portability. Ottoman shields were light, usually under 3 kilograms. Compare that to some modern riot shields or even medieval European ones that could weigh 10 kilograms or more. When you're on foot or horseback, weight matters. Less weight means faster reaction. That's not just a design choice, it's a survival edge.
Let's also not forget the spear butt, the metal cap at the opposite end of the spear. This wasn't just for counterbalance. It was also used to strike backwards, plant the spear in the ground, or flip it quickly. Ottoman warriors trained to use both ends of the spear efficiently. Even that tiny detail was part of a bigger, smarter design. So what can we learn from this today? First, materials matter. You don't need high-tech composites when nature already gives you strong, flexible, lightweight options. Wood, hide, bone, natural glue, all available, all renewable. Second, technique is everything. Making a good spear or shield isn't about expensive gear. It's about patience, skill, and an understanding of how each material behaves. Third, if the Ottomans could outfit entire armies with nothing but hand tools and fire, we can definitely make a practice spear in our garage. Or even teach our kids how to build a shield from scratch. It's empowering. And who knows, maybe one day that knowledge might come in handy again. And honestly, that's the heart of this channel. Rediscovering practical, powerful techniques from the past and asking the big question, could I do this myself? If this video inspired you to pick up a stick, a piece of leather, or even just a tool you've neglected, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. We've got so much more to explore together. Let me ask you this. If you had to defend your home without modern weapons, would you feel safer with a rifle that jams or a shield you built with your own hands? Think about it. Now here's a fun fact before we wrap up. Ottoman ceremonial shields often included verses from the Quran or talismanic symbols believed to bring protection. Some even had mirror-like surfaces to reflect evil. These weren't just physical tools, they were spiritual armor. Protection wasn't just about blocking arrows, it was about invoking meaning and belief. That's something modern tech can't replace. So now I'm turning it over to you. What surprised you the most about Ottoman spears and shields? Would you ever try building one yourself? Let me know in the comments below. I always read what you write and your ideas help shape future videos. And if you're still here, thank you. You're not just a viewer, you're part of this little rebellion against forgetting, against wasting knowledge, against being helpless in the face of broken systems. Subscribe, like, and start building, because history isn't dead. It's just waiting for you to pick up the tools.